bookshelves that were served by a sliding library ladder. They contained the original leather-bound shooting script of every movie that Cinescope had ever made. Alan had inherited the library, the office, and his position 3 years ago. By that time, Cinescope Studios was an established institution. Meyer Goldberg had founded his empire in the 40s, an era when careful Jews were changing their names. The actor Leo Jacobi was billed as Lee J. Cobb, and Sam Spiegel took his screen credits as S.P. Eagle. It might have been easier to operate under a Gentile pseudonym, but Uncle Meyer had never taken the easy way out. The ornate wrought iron gate in front of his studio still read, Meyer Goldberg's Cinescope. Because Alan's uncle had possessed the knack for producing the movies America wanted to see, Cinescope had thrived from day one. There was a pause in the conversation, and Alan chimed in with his usual, "Yes, Uncle Meyer." He wasn't listening, but that didn't matter. Uncle Meyer never paid attention to what he said anyway. The monologue from Hawaii resumed again, and Alan reached out to pour himself another cup of coffee. As he drank it, he held the receiver loosely to his ear and thought about the history of Cinescope Studios. Madcap comedies had been the rage in the 40s, and Meyer Goldberg had produced the right number of reels to keep America laughing right into the next decade. Then he had abruptly switched to another genre, inexpensive B movies for the drive-in market. Cinescope had churned out hundreds of teenage beach blanket movies and horror thrillers with monsters that were just real enough to convince a high school girl to cuddle up next to her boyfriend in the safe island of his souped-up car. When the television market had blossomed in the mid-60s, Cinescope was ready. The Tube had eaten up Cinescope Productions even more voraciously than Meyer's badly acted monsters had gobbled up their pretty victims. By the end of the 70s, it was one of the major studios producing at least 4 hit series a season and a larger proportion of network movies of the week than any other studio in town. Meyer Goldberg had been riding on the crest of a green-backed wave when Alan had left for Harvard Business School. Alan's friends had kept him abreast of the progress at Cinescope. The studio was expanding, and construction was almost complete on a mammoth 22-story glass-walled tower. That was good. Other news was not so good. Meyer Goldberg had made some big changes in studio policy. Smoking was now forbidden within the studio gates. Meat was no longer served in the commissary, and sparkling grape juice had taken the place of champagne at studio premieres. Even coffee had been banned. It seemed Alan's cigar-smoking, poker-playing uncle had been reborn as a Southern California fitness nut. At the end of his junior year, Alan had received a frantic phone call from his uncle. He had to return immediately. It had been a sweltering summer day 3 years ago when Alan had jumped the first plane to Los Angeles and rushed to his uncle's side. Alan had found his uncle pacing the floor of his brand-new office. The outside walls were huge panes of tinted glass, affording a view of the entire Los Angeles basin on a clear day. This particular day had been far from clear. Meyer had explained that Alan would have to take over. His health was of paramount importance, and he simply had to leave Los Angeles. The sight of the smoggy air lurking outside had been too much. He'd installed Alan in the penthouse domain, signed the legal papers that were necessary, and promptly defected to the cleaner air of Hawaii. The day after his uncle had left, Alan had celebrated his independence by removing every no-smoking sign in the studio. His second act had been to order a coffee machine for every office. After a tasteless vegetarian lunch at the studio commissary, Alan had written a memo restoring meat to the menu. Then he'd hired the most beautiful girl in the secretarial pool as his personal assistant, and spent the remainder